The advice and opinions expressed by the host of Autism Live and her guests are meant solely as suggestion and should not be in any way construed as child-specific advice. The Center for Autism and Related Disorders advises working with a board-certified behavior analyst who has experience with autism before starting any intensive behavioral intervention. Any choices you make in determining your child's treatment are completely at your own discretion.
Good morning and welcome to Autism Live. I'm Shannon Penrod. We're webcasting to you live from the Center for Autism and Related Disorders headquarters in Tarzana, California. It's Tuesday. It's December 10th. We're just getting that much closer and closer to a holiday break, and I'm hoping for all of you that it will be a holiday break. We only have 8 shows left to the end of the year. That's right, 8 shows, but that's 8 opportunities to win cool stuff like this. We're in the middle of our holiday giveaway extravaganza, and it is an extravaganza. Every hour that we're live, we will be giving away more items, and this is the item for this hour, so let me explain how this works for you. And by the way, this is a lovely toy from Uncle Milton. I can't believe that we're going to give this one away because I've drooled over this. It is the grand finale light show. This is great for a kid who's wanting to program things because it comes with these 5 cones. If you missed, we had a wonderful representative from Uncle Milton Toys on that demoed this for us. But you can look it up online as well. It's 5 cones and they light up, and there is this remote control here so they can program it to go off in the sequence that they want to. For somebody who's into computer programming, this is a really cool gift. For somebody who's into flashing lights, which some of our kids aren't, but a lot of our kids are. They love, the sound and the look of fireworks going off. Not necessarily for everybody, but if you have a child who's not into flashing lights, there are other things that Uncle Milton has that are really cool. This is a really cool toy to set up in a child's bedroom at night. They can go in there and have their remote control and have it, play the fireworks show. A really cool, again, Uncle Milton smashing toys they have at Uncle Milton. They're one of my favorites. So this is the toy that we're giving away in this hour. So this is how you win this. At some point during this hour, there will be a word or a phrase that will appear on the bottom of the screen. You need to write that down and write down the name of this firework finale toy. And you'll want to email us. Emily will show you the email address. And you need to get the email off to us. It has to arrive before 7 a.m. Pacific time tomorrow. So there is the email address, autismlive@gmail.com. In the subject title of your email, make sure you put the name of the toy that you're vying for, and then in the body of the email, put the word or the phrase that Emily will play. She'll put it on at random. I don't even know what it is or when it is, so don't email me and ask me. I don't know. They don't tell me. But you'll want to include that in the body of your email. Get it to us by 7 a.m. the next morning. Of all the correct responses, someone will be chosen at random to win this spectacular toy. There will be a different toy in the next hour, and I will just give you a hint. It's a leapfrog toy. So this hour, the firework finale from Uncle Milton, and next hour, a leapfrog toy. So every hour we're going to be giving, and I know a lot of people have won a lot of cool things. We're asking that when we notify you the next day that you've won, that you send us back your address for us to put the toy in the mail to you so that we can get it to you, hopefully, heaven willing, with the postal service that will get it off to you before the holiday. But we're also asking that when you get your toy, that after the toy has been opened, and I realize that may not be for a couple more weeks, that you send us a picture. We want pictures of your kids with these toys or you with these toys, because I know some of the things that we're giving away are more for mom and dad or for the teacher or whatever. But send us a picture of you being happy with your prize winnings. That will make our day. All right, so we gave a lot of great stuff away last week. You won't believe some of the things that we're giving away this week. I know you guys have been writing in and saying, do you have more of these? Do you have? I have more of all almost everything that we're giving away in the next, we have 8 shows counting this one. So you don't want to miss it. And remember, you don't have to watch us live. In fact, there are lots of different ways to watch the show. Emily's going to cycle through some of those different ways. I'll remind you that if you do want to watch live, or a really convenient place to watch and interact is www.autism-live.com. When you go there, there's a desk with a computer screen. If you click on the little triangle, then you can play either the live show or the most recently recorded live show. If you go to the other side, there's a long white bar. Put your cursor there. You can type and hit enter. There is a little bit of a delay, but it shows up here within a couple of minutes on my screen so that you can be asking questions of our experts and our guests that we have available on the show. And boy, do we have some good ones on today. So that's a great way to interact. It's free. We're not asking you to log in. In fact, we don't have any of your personal information. So if there's something you want us to get back to you about, make sure that you include a way to contact you, and I can edit that out before I show the audience at home. You can leave a question at any time during the day or the night. It's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week now, but I will encourage you to be specific whenever you're leaving a message, because if you write in and say, can I get more information about what she's talking about? I don't know which of the she guests that you're referring to. So be as specific as you possibly can in all of your requests so that we can serve you in the best possible way. And also, while you're on that site, you can click on the blog feature. We have sometimes guest blogging now, and there are also blogs that have information about things that are going on that hopefully will be of interest to you. And by the way, if you're interested in doing a guest blog, please write to us, because we're looking for guest bloggers. Next month in January, we're doing the blog A-Rama, where we're going to be featuring a lot of different autism bloggers on the show. And if you want to participate in that, make sure that you get an email off to us. All right. You can also, as Emily showed you, you can be participating on Facebook. We hope that if you go to Facebook, that you'll not only like us, but that you'll sign up for our free newsletter so that you can stay in touch with some of the things that we have going on, because we have a lot going on. We call this the little show that could. In any case, I want to remind you at the start of the show that the show is only as good as you guys participating. So please take part. Let us know what you want us to do, what kinds of topics you want to steer the conversation. Write in and talk. Say, this is what I want to talk about today, and we are here to serve you. Which brings me to my last thing before we get started here. Remember that I am not an expert in autism. I'm an autism mom. My son was diagnosed with autism. We're coming up on the 8th anniversary, and he was 2.5. He is now 10.5, and we had the benefit of so much really great intervention and the best of ABA from the Center for Autism and Related Disorders, because people gave us information. And I'm so pleased that here 8 years later, my son is doing so well, and I have a lot to pay forward. So that's what I'm here for, not to sit and pontificate, because what I don't know is endless and boundless, right? I'm here to learn along with all of you and to help plug you into the resources and information that can help you, whether you're a parent, teacher, practitioner working with a child on the spectrum, or you yourself are on the spectrum. We hope that we can uplift you, get you resources, and help you to make the progress that's important to you. All right, having said all that, we like to start the show with something that we fondly refer to as the jargon of the day. This is when we take on one word, one phrase, one acronym, and we try to figure out what in the heck are they talking about, these experts. Sometimes these terms are very confusing because they have words in them that we've been using in other contexts, right? So today, this is a phrase that we talk about a lot here on the show. Extinction burst. Ooh, we talk about extinction and we talk about extinction bursts. We are not talking about animals that are no longer on the planet. We're talking about getting rid of behavior, making behavior go away. And then we have something called an extinction burst. So let's take a look at our actual definition. Our actual definition of an extinction burst is an increase in the frequency of responding when an extinction procedure is initially implemented. Great, that's helpful, isn't it? That's why we do a working definition. Our working definition is that it's a temporary spike spike or increase in a problem behavior that occurs when the behavior's source of reinforcement is initially removed or discontinued. In other words, the behavior gets worse before it gets better. Okay. So if we're talking about let's say that your child is engaging in a behavior that is really making it rough for everybody. Let's say that they're kicking people. As you try to put them in the car seat, they're kicking you. They're kicking grandma. They're kicking other kids in the back seat, making life really, really problematic. So we call that a challenging behavior. And we look at it, and we have an expert look at it. An FBA, a functional behavior assessment, is done on. Because we know that there's some sort of paycheck that they're getting for that behavior. We talked a lot about that last week, that there's always a function of the behavior. There's a paycheck for doing the behavior. There's something that happens as a result of you doing the behavior that either is pleasurable or removes some sort of pain, or you wouldn't keep doing it, right? That's true of all of us. Doesn't matter whether you're on the spectrum or not. So you try to find out what the function of the behavior is, and you find out that the child is engaging in this behavior because they're getting attention for it, let's say. And that, so they kick and they get attention, and they wanted the attention. So and we know because the expert looked at it and said, this is what's happening with this. So we're going to stop giving attention to the behavior, which doesn't mean that we're going to stop giving attention to the child, but we put the behavior on extinction. So we're not going to give it its food source anymore. And in this particular case, we found out that the food source is attention. So you still have to get the child in the car seat, right? You're going to figure out, we talked last week about antecedent modifications. You're going to figure out how you can effectively, change that period of time to set them up for success. You're going to block to make sure that they can't kick you. But if something happens and they do still kick you, you're going to keep doing what you're doing and act as if nothing happened. You're not going to go, oh, don't kick me, right? Which is what would feel like a normal thing to do, right? Like, why are you kicking me? We don't kick or any of that. We're going to continue to put the seatbelt on and continue to block, but we're going to act as if nothing happened. We're separate. That's extinction. We're separating the behavior from its paycheck. It's hard. Stinking hard. And we expect that we're going to see over a period of time that because it's not getting its food source, like a fire, if it doesn't have oxygen, it fizzles out, right? If I'm doing it because I want to get this reaction from you and I don't get the reaction, eventually I'm going to give up doing it. Great, right? That's why we want to do extinction. But sometimes there's an extinction burst, which means they're going to do it twice as much before they stop doing it. And whenever we implement an extinction procedure where we're going to cut it off from the food supply, we have to be mentally prepared for the extinction burst. We have to know that it's going to get much darker before the dawn. You have to clear your decks. The therapists say we're going to do an extinction procedure. You're going to focus on that so that you get through it, and you're going to change your mantra in your head so that you're going to go, this might be the last time my child ever kicks me, and you will follow through with the procedure even as it gets worse. And you don't give up, right? You don't give up and say it's not working. In fact, when you see the extinction burst, when it gets worse before it gets better, you know it's working. The example that I always like to give is that, I talked about last week that we do a behavior. I go to the bathroom light switch and it turns on the light, floods light everywhere. And so now I do this every day. I turn on the bathroom light switch, except that our fluorescent bulb stopped working. So I would go to the light switch and, I may not be the sharpest tool in the shed, but I'm an adult. I understand how light switches work, right? I go and I turn the light switch on and it doesn't come on. And instead of immediately saying, oh, well, I guess the light switch doesn't work, what do? I flip it like 15 times. It's just human nature. Like, come on. It's always worked before. Why isn't it working now? Until I realize, oh, it's not working. And it takes me several days to get used to the fact and change the bulb, right? But I'm there sitting there going, come on, as if that's going to magically make it work. That's what our kids do. They kick and they get a response. They kick and they get a response. And then they kick and they don't get the response and they go, let's try that again. I'm pretty sure I get a response here. Kick, 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 kick. Where's my response? Kick, 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 kick. And then they go, oh, that doesn't work anymore. And then they move on. That's the extinction burst, that kick, 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 kick. Gets worse before it gets better. But it does get better, and you got to follow through. So that's what an extinction burst is. Good thing to know and a good thing to be prepared for. If they're talking about an extinction burst, if they're talking about doing an extinction procedure, be ready for the burst. You'll be grateful that you were. Okay, we always have a question of the day for you, and our question today is, how does your child like to be praised? What makes them happy? This is a worthwhile question to be asking ourselves, not only of our children on the spectrum, but of everyone around us. How does your significant other like to be praised? How does your boss like to be praised? How do the people you work with like to be praised? Because you might think you're trying to fill that bucket, but if you're filling it in a way that isn't great for them, you're not accomplishing anything. I've shared before on the show that my son just does not like it when I get loud. So if I start going, whoa, he goes, Mom, it's just like nails on a chalkboard to him. So if I sit there and go, oh, that's so good, he feels prideful and like he's done something great. I have to be mindful of that. So we want to know, how does your child like to be praised? And we're going to try to check in a little bit later on Facebook to see what you guys have said. We always have a topic of the week. And I told you last week what our topic was going to be because we did antecedent modification last week. We're doing consequence modifications this week. Usually they call them consequence strategies, but I'm calling it modifications because we talked about antecedent modifications. So we're looking at that ABC of behavior, that we know that there's an antecedent, something that happens before the behavior. If you weren't here last week, feel free to watch those episodes because it'll help you to understand. We did the whole tutorial on it. So the ABCs of behavior: antecedent, something happens; behavior, something happens, and there's always a consequence. And sometimes it's really helpful to change the antecedent. A lot of times it's really helpful to change the consequence. And most of the time we're going to change both and teach a replacement behavior. That's the recipe for success. So all this week we're going to be talking about those consequence modifications. And of course, extinction is one consequence strategy that we can do to change the paycheck. And we're having some amazing guests on the show today. Of course, it's Tuesday, so in just a second, we're going to be joined by Alex Plank from wrongplanet.net. In the next hour, we'll be joined by Matt Asner from Autism Speaks. And at the end of the show, we're going to be joined by a young filmmaker, the writer of a film called My First Kiss. Luigi Campi is going to be with us via Skype, talking about this really interesting film. It's a thriller about a young girl, 18 years old, with autism diagnosis and her first kiss, but ever so much more than that. So we'll be talking with Luigi in the next hour. So lots to talk about. We hope that you'll participate with us, be writing in to ask questions of our guests. We'll take a break and we'll be right back with Alex Plank. Stick with us. We're very excited because we're in the Noah's Ark exhibit and we're here with Jason Porter. Thank you for taking us on this tour.
Oh, thanks for having us.
So you're going to show me around a little bit and show me some of the secrets of the Noah's Ark exhibit, right?
Yeah, I'd be happy to.
Cool, let's go. Yeah. So Jason, tell us, this is an amazing space. Why is it so incredible for children?
One of the values of the Skirball Cultural Center is taking care of the earth and one another, and so this idea of repurposing materials that would otherwise be tossed off was a big component to how we design the galleries. It's based on, certainly the story that everyone knows is the one from the Hebrew Bible, the story of Noah. But in our research, we looked at over 200 flood stories from around the world, and many different cultures have flood stories that have similarities, and the similarities that we identified were these three chapters: the storm, some crazy challenge that comes to your life; an ark, a kind of means of survival, a way for a community to come together to survive; and finally the rainbow, which is this kind of symbol of hope, the second chance to make the world anew.
Love it. All right, let's take a look through, and we're going to talk about some of the learning opportunities that are available here.
Sure. We really wanted people to kind of discover what they were supposed to do. For example, this elephant has a gong in the center, and there's a little wheel here that you can turn and see what happens. But there's also some hidden things, like there's a little peephole in this polar bear, so it's kind of a moment where you could talk with your kids about what does it mean that that polar bear in there only has a small piece of ice to live on it, and you could talk about kind of the environmental issues that might be associated with it.
All right, should we go downstairs?
Yeah, let's check out the storm.
So, Jason, what do you call this room?
This is called the Storm Gallery. In one side of the gallery, we have a storm wall, which is all sorts of sounds and sight effects to make the storm come to life. But we have this, what we call the load up. It's fairly intuitive. You know, you put animals onto the conveyor belt and you turn the wheel and they get loaded up onto the ark. Except you can't do both at the same time by yourself. It's kind of layered in the doing, the learning that we're really interested in, which is about this notion of working together in order to accomplish something. So, you know, when you first get on the ark, obviously you enter 2 by 2 as the story goes. And so the animals in this first section of the ark, you know, they're not quite sure where they should be. They're a little bit nervous about who to hang out with. The gallery is really organized so that the animals are still in pairs. So we talk a lot about what are the elements of home that you need to survive. And it's really a nice kind of intro into the whole experience of being in a community, learning to be together with people who may or may not be the same as us. This gallery of Noah's Ark is unique, I think, in terms of the way that it was designed, that it offers a huge variety of experiences in a way that really accommodates people of all stripes and spots. So there are more quiet zones, like we just left in the move-in day, where you can come into this room where you have a lot of large motor things that are happening, including climbing, and we kind of have nicknamed this the arcade. It's kind of the chapter in the story where they're making new families and they're mixing with other animals that they've befriended. Oh, we have to talk about poop.
We can't do a show without talking about poop.
So, you know, the other fact of life on an ark is that everybody poops. So the challenge is to, you know, clean up.
Okay, so we're in the last room, very cool room. What do we call this room?
We call this the Rainbow Gallery. You know, people really get that this is a place of hope. Sometimes there's an art-making project that it ends in some sort of inspiration, that people feel like they're inspired to take action in the world and make it a better place.
Thank you so much for showing us everything and telling us about all the wonderful things at the Skirball Center. Welcome back. We are joined right now by the fabulous Alex Plank from Wrong Planet. I'm all verklempt this morning because you're here, from wrongplanet.net. So thrilled to have you here this morning. And in particular, I wanted to talk with you, wanted to start out talking a little bit about the big announcement the other day that Susan Boyle announced that she has gotten a diagnosis, an autism spectrum diagnosis, and I wanted to get your thoughts on what it felt like for you.
Well, I just think it's cool that any sort of person in the public spotlight, I admit I had not heard of Susan Boyle before this.
Okay, that's interesting.
But, you know, either way, I think anytime someone does that's great. It's great to have that positive awareness because it's someone who's proud to say that they have autism. You know, I think that gives not only people on the autism spectrum hope, but also parents who look at their kid, you know, maybe today and can see that, you know, what possibilities there are, you know.
I mean, clearly she's somebody who's been fairly successful in her life recently, but I'm wondering, because there's been a great deal of debate raging.
I think it's, and here's my take.
Okay.
The fact that they told her that she had brain damage, that was the thing that stuck out to me. That's ridiculous. Although it's common that you hear that people get misdiagnosed and get diagnosed with all these weird things that have nothing to do with autism.
Yeah. When she was, my understanding is that when she was a child, that's what they said to her, that they said something is quote unquote wrong with you, and that it's probably brain damage. And that just last year, she went to a Scottish doctor and said, I'd like to know that, basically she said, I've been told that something's wrong with me, and I'd like to get clarification on that. And the doctor said to her, there's nothing wrong with you, but my understanding is that she was told that she has Asperger's. And obviously that was last year's diagnosis because you can't technically you're not supposed to be able to be diagnosed with Asperger's anymore.
I like how everyone keeps saying that, and then saying, "Well, she has Asperger's." However, even though technically she doesn't, it's funny.
Well,
you notice that no one seemed to follow the DSM.
Right. Well, if she had, my understanding is that if she had gone for a diagnosis this year, I don't think it negates the fact that people have been diagnosed with Asperger's in the past, but if she had gone for a diagnosis this year, that what she would have been diagnosed with ostensibly is an autism spectrum disorder. People are not empowered anymore to diagnose and differentiate between the two. But if you've already gotten the diagnosis,
I think it's a lot of people have complained about the taking away that term, but at least from a technical standpoint, the line between Asperger's and high functioning autism is such a blurry line that the distinction is really not as meaningful as a lot of people would like to believe. I think that if it's true that that'll cause less people to get diagnosed, then yeah, that's a big problem. But at least technically, it makes more sense to me.
Well, there you go. That's an interesting thing to hear. But I'd like to talk to you a little bit, and we're going to take a break, but I'd like to come back and talk with you about the decision to be public. About when somebody has a diagnosis, it's entirely their choice whether they decide to tell or whether they decide to keep it private. And I'd like to talk with you a little bit about your feelings on what making that, what that entails, that choice.
Right now?
Okay. No, we're going to take a break and then come back. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay. That's what we're going to do then. We're going to take a break and we're going to be back with Alex Plank, but you can be writing in your questions right now on the live feature. We'll be back after these messages.
Hello, fellow activists. Last segment, we talked about step 3, get support. Step number 4 is don't compare, run your own race. Now, it's one thing to aspire to be like someone that's really helped their child. We all want to do that. That's really different than keeping up with the Joneses. That only serves to make you envious and full of regret. There will always be someone who has a child with autism who is doing better than yours, and there will always be someone who has a child with autism who's doing worse than yours. One morning I was talking to the mom of a recovered child who told me he had been moved into the gifted class. Well, I had heard that week that my own son, who was in 5th grade, was reading at 1st grade level. Now, I have to admit, I was kind of proud of him until that phone call, which put me over the edge. The green-eyed monster of jealousy. Well, later that same day, I got into the elevator as I was taking my son to clinic. There was a father with his 2 sons, one typical and one with severe autism. He was pretty much nonverbal, but he did make some very strange sounds over and over again. He had bite marks, scratches all over his arms. He wore mittens to protect him from himself. The father, however, had a big smile on his face. Needless to say, the universe was sending me a message that day. Don't compare. Be grateful for the progress your child has made and will continue to make. So until next time, keep running your own race at your own pace. Don't forget to stop for water and keep the faith.
Welcome back to Autism Live. We are here in the studio live with Alex Plank from wrongplanet.net. And before the break, we were talking a little bit about, it was all over the news this weekend that Susan Boyle, who rose to fame being on the show Britain's Got Talent.
And I mentioned to you that I had never watched
Yes.
Britain's Got Talent. So.
And I was just saying to Alex that a lot of us started following it on Facebook because here was this woman who didn't appear to have star quality. We'll say that she appeared very quiet and unassuming and middle-aged, nothing like you would expect for a superstar to look like. Walked out on the stage, sang I Dreamed a Dream, and it changed her life. And we watched her sort of come out of her shell, and we were sort of following it on YouTube, even though we weren't weren't able to watch the whole program. We were following it here in the United States. And then ultimately she came in second place and shortly afterwards appeared to have a nervous breakdown because of all the stress of all of it. But I think she's in her third CD that's coming out. And over the weekend, she went public with the fact that last year a Scottish doctor diagnosed her with Asperger's. And I wanted to talk with Alex a little bit about this idea of whether to decide to be public or not. Interestingly enough, Daryl Hannah recently admitted that she thinks that she's on the spectrum, got a lot of attention. And I noticed that today in The Guardian, there's a piece by Yosef Noor, and the title of it is, "It Helps That Susan Boyle Has Made Her Asperger's Public." And the writer says, "People have called me weird all my life. Perhaps the singer's late diagnosis will increase awareness of the syndrome." And he makes the case that this is good for everybody that she has come forward and said this. But I think it's a huge personal decision whether to tell people anything that you have, right?
Yeah.
Not just if you're on the autism spectrum. But I wanted to know from you, Alex, what you think about that moment and that decision. There are a lot of people out there who are wondering, should I disclose, should I not disclose about themselves or their kids? What are your thoughts?
I think disclosure is a really big issue. And you really hit the nail on the head right there where you're talking about, the moment where you're trying to figure out whether or not you can disclose. And it really depends on who you're talking to, what the situation is. Mm-hmm. A lot of times people will be wondering, on a day-to-day basis, should I tell my friend about this or should I tell this person I just met? I think it really depends. Mm-hmm. And it depends on how comfortable you are with it and how relevant it is. I think for someone in a public spotlight, it's great to do that. I do think, though, that in your day-to-day life, you don't necessarily need to go around telling everyone. So don't get the wrong message. You should just start going around saying that's to everyone you just meet.
Yeah.
That would probably be a mistake.
And I value your opinion on this because you've been very open on the show. I'm not saying anything by talking about this, right? That you've been very open on the show previously about the fact that you got a diagnosis when you were 9, correct?
That's right.
And yet when we're out other places, I don't feel shy about talking about that here with you here, but when you and I are out other places, I would never introduce you and say, oh, by the way.
Yeah, I hate when people do that, and it's really common.
Is it?
It depends.
Yeah.
It depends on how I know the people. If I know the people because of autism, then...
Yeah. Well, and most of the times that I've been out with you, I've been at autism events, but I still would not feel comfortable disclosing. I say to people, you're the founder of wrongplanet.net. And then, I leave it at that because that's
all you need
your
to say,
title.
really. I mean, it's... and also, I just think it's not that relevant.
Well, it isn't, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, in the conversation that we're having.
Yeah.
I mean, when you're introducing me to someone, we might be talking about something completely unrelated to autism,
Right.
most likely. That's
Right.
Has nothing to do, and there's really no need to disclose that.
Yeah.
I just think it sort of seems unnecessary. It seems like people would say it for a reason.
Right. Well, here's the selfish thing. Why I think I would ever consider, I respect your privacy to not go around and say that. But there is a part of me that I might be talking to someone and introduce you, and I would, the selfish part of me would love for them to know because
Well, I mean, it's
I
public
think
knowledge. You type
Right.
my name into Google and you look at Wikipedia and it says
Right.
that. So it's not
But
like I can really do anything
But I
about
think
it.
a lot of people meet you and have no idea that you are an adult that has a diagnosis.
They have no idea that I'm adult. Is the main problem.
No, not at all. But how encouraging it would be for them
Right.
in their life.
Yeah, and I think that's
whatever
true.
reason.
I do think that it's important for people to know. That's why for in the show that you mention and parents watch and
Yeah.
see me, and hopefully they get
You give hope, Alex. Of course you give hope.
glimmer of
Yeah, we look at you and think, wow, okay, so this is what's possible, and it raises the bar to a place that we may not have known. And I know that you move in a world where your world is full of people who are on the spectrum, who are successful and maintaining lives and doing things and being productive.
Just as many that are not. I mean,
Right.
I bet you that it's Well, it's probably a little more favored towards people on the spectrum than, you know, the actual rate, but...
But for a lot of us, you know, the examples that we have, I think I've shared this with you before, that shortly after my son was diagnosed with autism, I was going to get a car seat. And I was having a hard time with my son as they were trying to put the car seat in the car. And the very helpful person at the store said, "Oh, don't worry, you know, he's just been diagnosed with autism," because we were having the conversation. And because he was doing a lot of behaviors, and she said, "What's up with him?" And we, you know, I disclosed, and she said, "Oh, don't worry, I know lots of people on the spectrum, and I have a really good friend, and he's doing so well, that her son." And I said, "Really? Like, how well?" And she said, "You know, he's 15 and he's still in diapers, but, you know," and this was her viewpoint of doing well at 15, which you know, after that, I don't know, she could have said he was at Yale and I wouldn't have heard it, because all I heard was a 15-year-old that's still in diapers, and if that's doing really well, it sucked the life out of me on that day. I then went on to find out more information, but it's, you know, you want to know what your worst case scenario is, and you want to know what your best case scenario is. You know,
Well, the worst case scenario is you die in the next, like right now, like that's like the worst case scenario. I mean, if you think about it, so you could, you can think about the worst case scenario in any situation.
Absolutely.
What you want to think about is I mean, it's all about planning to make it the best that it can be, and not being so focused on what that outcome's going to be, thinking it will be a good outcome and having this hope that it will be good, and then doing everything you can to ensure that that happens.
Absolutely.
But worrying about failure is not going to help. And in fact, the more it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, I think. I think the more you believe in it, the more likely it will.
I agree, but
I mean, obviously, if someone, you can't like believe in miracles, you know, some people are going to have more struggles than others. But.
Yes, although I believe in the miracles too. But I would say this, that I think when you don't, it takes so much energy to have hope sometimes, and when people look at you, it takes less energy to have hope.
Well, I'm glad. I mean, that's why I speak at a lot of conferences, and I really enjoy talking to parents.
Yeah.
Kind of the most, because I feel like when I talk to people on the spectrum, at least people who are my age, of course they have a lot that they can learn from me. But I mean, parents have a kid who's younger than me, and that, you know, they're trying to see what's going to happen later, and I think that is something that's pretty cool.
And I think that Susan Boyle has added to that too, that she is another example of, you know, you can have a big life. It doesn't necessarily mean a small life, but I wonder what the cost is.
Right.
And you've been very open and honest. Has there been a cost for you as a result of that?
Of what? Of disclosing?
Yeah. Do you feel like people discount you or judge you or treat you differently?
Perhaps, although I mean, I really can't tell. No, I think that if anything, people, when after people have gotten to know me, I don't think that plays any part into it, because they realize that I'm this really cool person that they like to get to know. I mean, even. I mean, at first, even working on like the bridge, like, you know, I was talking about autism a lot, but once I got to know everyone, I mean, I really, people started to, I mean, they didn't think of me just like the autistic guy, you know?
Right, right.
They just thought of me as Alex. And, I mean, that's kind of what you hope for. You don't want to be labeled as something and have that define who you are.
Right.
But it's hard, because you do run the risk of that if that's all you talk about, or if that's what you do. And I, you know, my website is about that, and I consult on that, and I speak on that. So
yeah, I mean, even for me as an autism parent, that's what I spend the lion's share of my day focusing on. And I have noticed for me that there is a cost for that there are people who have expressed to me in as kind of a way as they can, well, you know, you're so much in that autism thing anymore that there's no talking to you anymore. That we try to have a conversation with you about other things, and somehow it all comes back around.
It's like I go to these autism conferences, and I don't have anything wrong with autism conferences. I love it, and I love talking about it. But then when we go to lunch, I don't want to talk about autism. I know that everyone wants to pick my brain because they're so excited that I'm there to talk. Right. But it's like, you know, why
Yeah.
don't we talk about something else?
Yeah.
Or-
And I think it's important for all of us to have, you know, we want to get word out about autism, but to have lives that aren't focused on autism as well. When I got to interview Temple Grandin for the first time, she gave me marriage advice and said, make sure there's at least a part of your marriage that doesn't have to do with autism. And I think it was great advice.
Well, I've never been married, so
Right.
I don't think that I could give any advice on that.
Well, but you know what? I don't, to my knowledge, Temple's never been married either. And when I said something to her and I said, you know, the high irony of this, Temple, that you're giving me marriage advice, and she said, I'm a problem solver. I don't have to have taken part in a problem to solve the problems. And I was like, okay, that works for me. And it was great advice. And I think my husband enjoyed it too, because it's very easy for me to focus on the autism thing as opposed to everything else.
I agree.
So, but I love hearing that from you, and maybe we can all be aware of that if you're around an individual who has decided that it's okay for them to disclose and you have so much to learn and gain from them, don't make it all about that.
Yeah, and it's funny because when I meet people for the first time, I mean, when I know them not as long, they might be more likely to do that, but once they get to know me, they just, you know,
Yeah.
they just introduced me as Alex. It's funny how that happens.
Yeah.
So.
And that's a thing to be looked forward to. All right, we're going to take a break, and we're going to come back more with Alex Plank after these messages. Stick with us.
Hi guys, welcome back to Smarty. For December, I thought we'd work on an activity that is a handmade gift for someone who is super special in your life. It could be for a teacher, family member, or a friend. So let's get to it. The materials you'll be needing for this activity are cardstock, pencil, glue, and crayons. This activity is making a monogram letter filled with crayons. This activity is great because it works on one, the pincer grasp, and also planning ahead, since you're going to be having to break the crayons to fit the inside of the letter. So to begin this activity, first things first, mom or dad or guardian is going to have to draw out the letter for the kid. If that's a little difficult for you, you can always just print something out from your computer and then glue it on the heavy cardstock, all right? I'm going to go ahead and draw mine freehand. So now that my letter M is drawn out, now it's time to fill it in with the crayons. So I'm going to take them and place them onto it accordingly and try to break them into pieces that'll fit the spaces perfectly.
See all the colors in the sky tonight.
So now that you've figured out the sizes of the crayons to fill in your letter, now take your glue and fill in the space and start laying them back in. Now we're going to let this dry for a little while. Once your monogram is done drying, feel free to decorate any way you feel. I'm going to write a little message, but you can do whatever you want.
Stars come out and swirl around so high.
So here's my finished monogram letter. Hopefully Ms. Mackenzie is going to love her gift, and I hope you enjoy doing this activity with me. Until next time, guys, craft on. Bye.
When you see me flying by your side.
Welcome back to Autism Live. We're here with Alex Plank, founder of WrongPlanet.net. We should talk at least for a second about Wrong Planet, so if we have new viewers and are wondering what WrongPlanet.net is all about, give us the rundown.
WrongPlanet.net is the online resourcing community for people with autism. It has more than 80,000 members, and we're the most popular social network for autism. We have how-to guides for social skills, videos, but mainly the biggest draw, I think, is the social aspect, because that gets, you know, we have millions of messages posted. And
it's a safe place for people to ask questions and get questions back from other individuals who are on the spectrum. And if you've got teenagers, it's a great place for them to go, because they might have questions about things. And adults who are on the spectrum spend time there to be able to share some of the frustrations and some of the victories and some of the day-to-day and stuff that isn't about autism as well. To be able to have a safe place to converse with people who get it on a level that maybe the rest of us can't always. And it's a great resource for parents if you're wanting to know.
Oh yeah, I mean, there are a ton of parents that go on there and talk with one another. We have a parent discussion forum, and we have school forum and social skills forum for people with autism. And parents post it anywhere they want. I mean, it's not like
And you do great videos. You have Autism Talk TV, and you do great videos where you interview people. And also, I love the ones where you pick a specific topic and like talking about bullying and going through it from your point of view, but also going through it with, is she a psychologist?
Yeah.
The guest that you have on the show that talks about from that aspect of it, really great videos. How to flirt. Useful stuff, Alex. It's good stuff.
It's stuff that, you know, when I wanted to learn, and I had to learn the hard way.
Yeah, it's high. Well, I mean,
so it's nice to be able to show people what is easy. It's not that hard. It's like there's this idea. I think there's this idea that a lot of people on the autism spectrum have, and parents as well. It's like an assumption of failure, like before, you know, before it even occurs.
Right. Right.
So they're making predictions.
And they're the kinds of things that we'll all worry about because they're milestones, things. And it isn't just people on the autism spectrum that have trouble with these things. Everybody does, but you do great videos that outline these are the things that you want to be aware of. So they're really remarkable. And there are a couple of videos that I'd like to request for topics for you guys in the future. I don't know if you want me to talk about them here or in private.
Well, yeah, mention them and I'll tell you right now if I'll do them.
Okay. Well,
No. Sorry.
One thing that I would love to see is a tutorial about how to use social networking and not be annoying. Because there are a lot of people...
That's not an autism related thing.
Right, it isn't, but I think that there are people who, I have friends who are on the spectrum who said, I don't know when I'm being persistent and when I'm being somebody who is creeping people out or upsetting people.
Well, that's a good
markers.
idea. I don't know if that's a good video, maybe. But one thing I would say on that topic is the fact that, you know, I have people that will message me, like, and I won't reply, and then they'll message me again, like, and then they'll message me again. They'll just say, hey, and like if I never respond, like.
Yeah. Yes.
You know.
And I have a lot of people.
And it's like I see that this person is obviously trying to create a conversation, but the problem is that, like, it's like, why don't you just send me your conversation? Like, why are you talking to me? You know what I mean? And that's the thing. You need to have a reason to talk to someone.
Yes.
Well, you don't have to if they want to talk. If they want to talk to you, but I mean, in general, when you do need a reason to talk to people when you're trying to start conversations, or at least on Facebook, when you send a message or send an email, you don't say, hey. You could say, hey, what's up, if you regularly converse.
Right.
But if it's someone you're not familiar with, you're going to have a way in. You need to, and even then, it might not work.
And if you send the hey, if it's somebody you've been conversing with regularly, and you send the hey and they don't respond, then if you still need to talk to them, the next time you don't send hey again, and you don't send over and over again.
It really depends. You just don't do it. I mean, maybe you wait a couple of weeks or something. I don't know.
Yes.
Or at least a few days.
But I think there are a lot of people who need the tutorial.
You know, and the more you respond, well, so let me say this a little more clearly. The more times you send them a message and you don't get a response, the less frequently you should send a message to them.
Yes. Can you make that video?
I
the world needs that video. All right. And then the other thing, which I said we were going to talk about when we came back from the break, is holidays from the perspective of people who are on the spectrum. I think there's a great deal of perspective taking that doesn't happen on the part of neurotypical people during the holidays. And I think it's purely because we don't get it.
People get stressed out during the holidays. And it's silly because the holidays are a time where you relax and don't have to worry about anything. And people get freaked out because they're like, oh, they worry about their relatives and like what they're going to say and what they're going to do. In reality, the best mentality is to just not care. I mean, that's really, I mean, as a parent, you need to just sort of be like, I'm just going to relax. And if the kid's annoying, I mean, well, it's, you know, it's a kid. They're annoying.
Right.
So,
you're right. We do take it to heart. I agree with you there.
You can't.
But I think, too, even as a parent, you know, Jem is at the point now where he can say to me, when something sensory is happening, he can say to me, that is like somebody, you know, hitting me in the head over and over again.
That's another issue for the, you know, the perspective of an individual on the autism spectrum.
I wish that more of us could know what it is like for our kids so that we would stop doing things that are annoying them. We never mean to annoy them. It just doesn't occur to us
Well,
that...
you have to realize that if someone's on the autism spectrum and they're super focused on their thing, and like if you're interrupting them from that, that's like the worst thing in the world you can do. I mean, obviously you have to, but
Yeah.
So you have to realize that there's this focus that people with autism have, and a lot of times, you'll think that you're being rejected when in reality it's just the fact that they're being interrupted from their stream of thought. At least that's how it is for me.
Well, I think that's how it is for my son as well. He gets into a video game, and, when I ask him to stop that and do something else, I've said to him before, you act as if I have just burned the house down and committed war on...
Well, that's how it feels. I mean, when I was a kid, if my parents even knocked on my door, I would get incredibly mad and start throwing stuff.
Okay, and how did they get... They didn't give up. They didn't say, okay, we're going to leave him alone. They continued to knock on the door.
Well, yeah, but I mean, I assume that it was a little less frequently.
and you got to the point when
I just think that it's really not. It's an issue inside. It comes with age. You learn to be able to reprioritize and be interrupted and not. I mean, what you're focused on right now is not the most important thing in the world, even though it feels that way. And that's how it feels to me.
Do you still, when you're being interrupted, I hate to be interrupted if I'm writing. I don't throw things, but do you still,
no,
does it still make you angry? You don't throw things?
No, I mean, I never threw things at people, but... at the wall.
My husband and I have had to make a hand signal so that when I'm writing something that he doesn't ask me something where I have to answer a question. I can just, go like this and he knows I'm writing. Because if I have to stop, if I'm writing and I have to stop to answer and say yes, I lose my train of thought.
Right.
I can't hang on to it. I don't know why, but I can't.
Well, I mean, it's because it's a train of thought.
Well, I know people who can multitask and do
it's
that.
Not that easy to get.
I can't. I'm not a multitasker that way. Not for writing. Not for the things that are on that side of my brain.
But that's also a benefit, being that one. So you need to also encourage that. In a certain, I mean, not to the extent that they're obviously always doing what they want to do, but you need to encourage that focus and show that it's a good skill. I mean, it's a mixed blessing.
I think you're right, and but it's hard to find the mix. It's hard to find the balance.
Mm-hmm.
I do like the fact that when my son focuses, he can focus on something, and it wouldn't matter what's going on around him. He can focus on it and problem solve and get something done. But when it's that I need for him to put shoes on because we have to go pick something up and I've got a limited amount of time and he's got that laser focus, it's my least favorite thing on the planet in that moment. But what did your mom do to be able to get you out of that focus to be productive when she needed you to? What was her secret?
I think you probably should ask her. I really don't know.
I'm going to have your mother on this show if it's the last thing I do, because I have much to ask her.
Well, you should always save the best for last.
I have much to ask her. I want to pick her brain because clearly she did a really good job. I mean, also your dad and also you had something to do with it, but the fact that your mom is still sane and that you're doing so well, I want to meet her. I want to get to know your mom. Will you tell her for me?
Okay.
All right. Any last minute thoughts here before we go to break?
No.
All right. So we are going to take a break, and I think we're losing you after this segment. So I'm going to stop for a second and say thank you.
All right. So I'm taking.
Yes. And wait for just a second though. But we have you on the show next week.
Yeah. Do you?
Yes. I mean, you're not going away yet for the holidays.
What is next? Maybe, I don't know. Probably.
Okay.
I'll be there.
We'll sort this out. We'll sort this out. And do you have a favorite thing that you like to do for the holidays now?
Favorite thing? Nothing. I just like spending time with family and.
So the social aspect of it.
Yeah.
I think that's really cool.
I like all the holiday parties.
Yeah. Because you're a social animal.
Yeah.
That's a very good thing. We can all aspire to that. All right, so we'll say goodbye to you now, but we'll see you back next week. We're gonna, as we go to break, we're gonna go to the A Word. This is the ongoing documentary being made at the Center for Autism and Related Disorders, following a little boy, Jack Riley, who was diagnosed with autism at the age of 2. Now, we've been showing this to you sequentially, and we kind of got caught up. So I asked Emily for this week, we're going to be showing you the episode that deals specifically with toilet training, because we're going to be talking about that a little bit next week. And I think it's a great episode as everybody gets ready for this break, this holiday break. Sometimes you don't have as much services, like you may not have preschool during the break. It could be, depending on how much other support you have, if you still have therapists coming, it could be the ideal break in which to get the potty training thing under control. So take a look. This is the A Word.
Potty training is different for every child. A child could come in with absolutely, no control over their bladder, and as long as that's not a medical issue, then we can certainly approach it behaviorally and give them the tools they need to be successful, just like any other skill that we would teach.
Well, we think he's learning to pee on the potty. No big successes yet, and lots of accidents. Here is the laundry from today.
For some of our kids takes, just a couple days. And then for other kids, it can take months and months and months. And then when you're looking at complete independence, it can take years.
Hey, you have to go pee-pee?
There's a lot of different ways to tell if a child is ready. We look for a couple different things. Probably the most important is parents saying, I need this to happen, I'm ready. Second is, a child showing interest in the bathroom, and some of it is simply age. It's time to go ahead and work on this.
What are you doing? Pooping. You're pooping?
You first start with teaching the child what they need to do on the toilet. The basic thing we want is for them to drink as much liquid as possible. It's inevitable that if you drink a bunch of liquid, you're gonna pee.
Help!
No, I can't help you pee.
Help!
I can hold your hand, but I can't help you pee.
Ultimately, what we want is that, the child, as soon as they're put on the toilet, they urinate. So that's step 1. Step 2 is usually working through the amount of time that they're off of the toilet and making sure that they're not having accidents during the time that they're off. So this is kind of the bladder control stage of things.
So the purpose of the potty log is just to see how long it takes them as soon as they sit on the potty for them to actually urinate, and the amount of time that he's able to hold his urine. And with the log, we're able to visually see how long it takes them each time, and if they have accidents or not. He's on a half-hour potty schedule, so if he doesn't go when we take him, then we have to take him in 10 more minutes. So every 10-minute intervals until he does go, and then we reset the clock, and it's 30 minutes again.
Okay, buddy. Okay, last chance to go pee-pees. Do we reset it for 10?
Oh, what does that mean? What does that mean, Jack? It's potty time! We can come play after. Hurry!
What we hope happens in this time is that the kids will learn how to initiate going to the bathroom on their own. This is oftentimes the hardest part of potty training, is because they get so used to somebody telling them when they need to go that they're not really recognizing the signs just in their own body of when they need to go.
Uh-oh, he wet himself.
Uh-oh. Big wet?
Was it a lot? We can reset to half an hour now.
The biggest thing for parents is not to give up. The other big tip, and I think pitfall that a lot of parents fall into, is putting their children back into pull-ups or diapers, especially if they're starting to have accidents. And this is probably the worst thing that you can do. They need to recognize that feeling of fullness in their bladder and take themselves to the bathroom, or tell an adult that they need to go to the bathroom.
What do you have to do? You have to put your pee-pee in the potty. Okay, give it a shot. See if you can put it in there. There you go. You're doing it. Yay, Jack. Big prayer for your pee-pee. Big prayer for your pee-pee. Yay! Woo! Yay!
Welcome back to Autism Live. You see that smile at the end, and they're giving him the high fives, and everybody's going, yay, yay. And you see that he gets it, that he's done something right. That's when you know that you're praising a child right. That's when you know that your consequence strategy of praise is effective, when the child is responding in that kind of a way. You see that in the beginning, he wasn't quite sure. He was like, everybody's flipping out. I don't know why. But then he realizes, whatever this was, I did a good job. And if praise does that for your child, woohoo, right? Because it will be very effective at maintaining that kind of behavior. But you know, it doesn't with every child. And I said before that my son doesn't like it when I'm exceedingly loud. Now, Dad can be so loud that the house can rumble, and it's okay. For whatever reason, my voice is just grating for my child, as it is for some other people as well. But what can you do? So I have to find other ways of praising him, and that's what our question of the day was about today, which we're going to get to a little bit later on. But really want to remind you that this series, The A Word, is available to you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week in its entirety on its very own YouTube channel. Use it as a tool to help you to be able to see, okay, are we getting quality ABA? Are we managing our stress? Are we out of the ordinary, that this is hard for us? I think you'll learn a great deal by going and watching The A Word, and share it with family members. I can only say that I wish that it had been there when we were doing early intervention, because I would have, when friends were calling me up and saying, I don't really get what you're doing and why we don't see you very much, I would have said, watch this, and you'll see this is exactly what we're doing with our child, and this is why I need your support right now, because this is stinking hard, and yet it's so good. So I encourage you to use this show as a resource and as a platform, and any other way that a teaching tool to help you to accomplish the kinds of things that you want to accomplish. It's remarkable. And by the way, we will have a new episode for you next week. We'll be debuting it here on the show as part of our last week before the end of 2013. You will get to see the episode where we went together, Autism Live and the A Word. My son Jem and Jack Riley went to the LA Zoo. So I know I can't wait to see it. They were a hoot, the two of them together. They had such a good time playing together. It's part of the reason why we've had to up our game in terms of adoption, because he wants a sibling. That's what the child wants. In any case, we usually on a given day like to bring you a story from the Autism Daily Newscast. And I'm really excited. We didn't get to this on Friday. I really wanted to share it on Friday, but from the Autism Daily Newscast, the title here is Lego Play Therapy Benefits Children with Autism. How much do we love this? The article goes on to report practitioners and parents have discovered that the use of Legos during play therapy groups for children with autism leads to improved social skills and play skills. Research confirms that this is the case. Lego brand toy building blocks offer a highly routine, repetitive, structured form of play that many children with autism find appealing. Activities using Legos can be graded from simple step-by-step instructions to free building that allows for creativity. During play therapy, however, group activities can be designed around the use of Legos to help children gain skills in both verbal and nonverbal communication, sharing, turn-taking, collaboration, and other social skills. Research on Lego play therapy was recently conducted at the University of Cambridge. This study focused on children with both autism and Asperger disorder and found that children who participated in Lego therapy showed improvement in social skills. Research into the value of using Lego as a part of play therapy are well documented. Another study conducted in 2008 evaluated social skills interventions for 6 to 11-year-olds, including Lego therapy. Children with autism were randomly assigned to intervention groups, and therapy was provided for 1 hour per week over 18 weeks. Researchers found that the Lego group therapy displayed more improvement than the other groups on autism-related related social interaction scores. A report published in Autism in 2006 studied the long-term outcomes of Lego therapy for children with autism. Children with autism who participated in Lego therapy were compared to children with autism who participated in another form of therapy. The children who received Lego therapy showed significantly more improvement on outcome measures than the non-Lego group. During Lego therapy groups, participants agree on a project that is not too easy or too difficult for group members. Each participant is assigned a job to do, such as putting the bricks together, sorting and obtaining the bricks, designing the project, etc. And these roles are rotated as the project progresses so that each participant gets a turn at each role. The principles of play therapy are followed during Lego therapy sessions. Groups are held at regular scheduled times and places. An adult facilitator assists participants with problem solving on task behavior, providing positive reinforcement of appropriate social interactions. Lego therapy groups encourage collaboration, pretending, and nonverbal communication. These groups can also provide participants with a system of rewards and praise when changes to the building project are completed, allowing a child to successfully break from routine, repetitive patterns. This process helps children with autism develop creative responses and improved coping patterns when faced with changes in routine. How lovely is this, and how much does it make us all want to go buy some more Legos to put underneath the tree? I think that it's a really remarkable group of study, and if you want to know more, I'll also give some suggestions in the Autism Daily newscast of some places that are implementing this type of therapy. So if that excites you and you think, boy, my child would love this, take a look. Go to the autismdailynewscast.com, and by all means, support Lego. They're an amazing company, and we know from having Sorkill, why can I not think? Sone, thank you, Emily, on the show, that they are using the Mindstorm Legos with some of the older kids to get them job ready. It's really a remarkable company and done a lot for autism in general. So thanks to Lego and thanks to the Autism Daily newscast. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, we'll be joined by the fabulous Matt Asner. Stick with us. Hi, we're at the Toys R Us in Porter Ranch, California. And Emily and I are going to take a little tour around the store and find some great toys for some great kids.
All right, let's go.
Come with us.
Yes.
Okay, bring your dinosaur and come on, let's go look at things in the game aisle.
Okay.
I know you love games.
I do look.
All right. So here we are in the game aisle, Emily, and I want to show you that there's all these games that you can get for kids of all ages. They're interactive and really remarkable. One of the hot toys this year and many other years is the Bop It toy.
Okay, so what about the Bop It is so reinforcing?
Well, you know what? It can be interactive. It can be a social game. It makes lots of noises. Sometimes they light up depending on the version. It helps to work on fine motor skills, and it helps to work on fluency. This toy will grow with the child, and in fact, you can get it in different versions. This is a little bit more complex version, and up top here we have one that's especially for older kids. It's called the Smash the Light. I would wait until a child is older to play with this one. So should we check out the Lego aisle?
Yes.
Okay, let's do it.
Go. So how can we use Legos to help our kids?
Well, they're really spectacular toys for our kids because they work on executive functions and planning. They're really colorful. You can work on colors and grouping and matching, counting, because they have the little dots on the top. And if you have a younger child, you can start with the Duplo toys that are compatible with Lego and they don't have the choking hazard.
So then as the kids get older, what's great about Legos, it looks like, is that there's all sorts of themes. We've got movies here and video games, so the kids can really connect with what's personal to them. So Legos are amazing, but what else do we have to see?
Let's look at some educational toys in the leapfrog aisle, shall we? Okay.
Okay, so what do you have here?
Well, we're in the leapfrog aisle. This particular toy, very popular this year, is a leap reader. It comes with a little pen, and it tells us that we're going to read, write, and listen, all skills that we want to work on with a child. This pen that's in this box, you can put it over different pages in the book. It will read aloud to the child. They can trace their letters. It reinforces them for doing a great job. It's a really spectacular toy for our younger kids that are working on reading, writing, and listening.
This looks like a lot of fun and a really great way to help our kids learn to read and write.
Absolutely.
What else are we going to play with today?
I think we should take a trip down the functional pretend play aisle. This is where you're going to find all the things that are like real, but the toy version. So I've got this lovely set here that's all fresh vegetables, so I'm teaching nutrition at the same time. They're all appropriately colored. I've got a knife so I can be cutting them too. This is really great play for a young child.
Shannon, I heard you got some toys that I get to play with now.
Yes, I'm going to take you to the demo table. We're going to let Emily play with some toys, and we're going to be giving some of these toys away on the show. But they're not just any toys. These are toys that are featured in this year's Toys R Us toy guide for differently abled children. And this is put together with the help of our friends at Lecotech.
So what do all these different icons mean?
These are different icons that tell us what skill this toy might help to develop in our children.
So can I play with the toys now?
Yes, it's time to play with the toys, Emily.
So I think I recognize this guy.
Yes, this is the ever popular and very sweet Elmo. But this is a very specific Elmo that teaches adaptive skills like zippering.
Almost yellow triangle zipper.
And so we get the reinforcement of Elmo talking to us when we do these things. There's a let's keep playing. So it encourages the child to continue to interact. And he's very reinforcing. When he giggles, I just want to hug him and play with him some more. Okay, so moving on, let's look at some Melissa and Doug toys. These are incredible toys. They'll last several different generations because they're made out of good quality wood.
Awesome.
And let's start with a lace and trace toy. Now, I happen to know that you love turtles,
I
Emily.
do love turtles.
And this is a set of farm animals lace and trace. And the child can pick out a color that they like for a lace.
All right.
And there are lots of different things that they can do with this. And I know it might seem like this is an old-fashioned toy, but you know, sometimes the old-fashioned toys are the best toys. Because what you're doing right now, Emily, is that you're using a lot of hand-eye coordination and you're using the pincer grasp. This is a precursor to writing right here. If you've got a child who's having difficulty holding a pencil, this is a really reinforcing way to work on this. And it comes in lots of different things. And then also for Melissa and Doug, we have this amazing switch and spin. Love this so much. This is a great cause and effect toy. As we start to put the gears together, we notice that when you turn one, another one can turn. You can rearrange this and do it in lots of different ways. There are 10 design boards, so you don't have to just do fish. There are other things that you can put there instead.
That's awesome.
Kids love this toy, and it's another Melissa and Doug toy.
Cool.
All right, let's take a look at some fun games.
So I found this game, and it's called Fibber. So Shannon, I'm going to need you to put on your fibbing glasses.
I want a fib.
All right. So this game is totally reinforcing, and it helps our kids to work on lying.
Yes, and that's something we really, I know it sounds strange, but we want to work on that because being able to tell a lie is something that helps with safety issues. And also being able to tell if somebody else is lying is a really useful life skill.
What you need to do is get rid of your cards without trying to grow your nose, kind of like Pinocchio.
Okay.
But if you get caught...
And so eventually you can have a whole string of noses attached to the end of your nose. Very colorful. Again, we can be working on the colors. Kind of hilarious. A kid's going to want to play this with mom or dad and see that mom is Pinocchio telling lots of lies. I like this game a lot.
This is a great game.
We've had a really great time at Toys R Us, and all of the toys that you see here on the table we're going to be giving away on the show. So stay tuned to find out how you can win one of these great toys. Welcome back to Autism Live. We're here with the fabulous Matt Asner. It's Tuesday, so always so thrilled to have you here. You're the executive director of Autism Speaks Southern California, but you're also an autism dad and you're an autism brother.
Yes.
You're a wealth of information, and we always like to hear it from the male perspective, and you have that really 360-degree perspective. As you came into the studio this morning, we were talking a little bit about the Susan Boyle disclosure, and I was filling you in on what Alex and I talked about earlier, and I said I'd love to get your opinion on disclosure and when we disclose, and because you've got a very unique perspective of this.
Yeah. Well, I think, you know, I lived this first through my dad, and you know, who's a well-known actor.
And for people who don't know, your father is
Ed
Asner, very famous actor. I just watched a Christmas
activist.
And an activist. I just watched a Christmas special this weekend in which your dad was playing Santa Claus.
Was that the Lifetime movie?
No, it was an
Hallmark.
animated movie.
Oh, it was an animated movie.
Animated. Betty White was playing Mrs. Claus.
You know, he's played Santa Claus like some crazy, like 30 times. It's
I
insane.
can well believe it. He'd make a good Santa Claus.
But
he's your dad.
He's becoming Santa Claus. But he is my dad.
Yeah.
And you know, it was interesting because I come from the school where disclosure is everything. So my feeling is, if it's there, you know, for awareness sake, get out there and say, my child has autism.
Yeah.
We need to draw attention to this. And I know it's a slippery slope, because a lot of people think, oh well, I don't want my life to be about that. I don't want my profession to be about that. I don't want to, you know, I don't want to live my life, you know, just dealing with that.
Yeah.
It's hard enough to deal with it on your own. But, you know, my dad is the kind of guy that really, I mean, didn't think twice about it.
Yeah.
He said, you know, I need to learn more about this. I need to talk about it. We need to get out there and make sure that parents understand what it is and what to look for. And he didn't think twice about it. And so he rubs off on me a little bit. So I see him as a hero for that, because it's difficult. I mean, people have a hard time stepping out, and because it's a painful thing for a lot of parents. And when a parent is dealing with this, I mean, I've spoken to a lot of people who I'm not going to name, but they don't want to come out. They don't want to talk about it. They don't want to let the world know that their child has autism, because it's painful for them. But I think awareness is everything. So I applaud Susan Boyle for coming out and talking about it, because it's something that I think a lot of people might see as a weakness, and unfortunately.
Yes, unfortunately.
And it's certainly not. But I think it's great that she's talking about it.
Yeah,
I think it's great that Daryl Hannah talked about it.
I think it's great that she did too. And there was, well, it'll be interesting to see with Susan if there's a backlash for her. There certainly was for Daryl Hannah. There were people who came forward and said, we don't think she has autism. And I thought,
now, who said that?
How nice. You know, it was reported that somebody who had worked with her before, I don't know whether it was an ex-manager or agent or whatever, who said, you know, that's preposterous. And I thought, well, how nice for you that you got a degree in diagnosing autism.
Exactly.
You know, which mail order school did you get that from?
Exactly.
I had no idea you were an expert.
So there were really people who criticized her.
Yeah, well, no, there were people who said we disagree. But you know that always happens.
Yeah.
You know, people are like that. So, you know, but I think that it just adds when people do disclose. But it is a very personal choice.
Yeah, it is. You know, I think. But like I said about my dad, there was really no second thought. I mean, he's that type of person, though. I mean, he's the type of person that if he thinks he can help people, he will come out and talk about it, even if it creates pain in his life for him. He will come out and say something, because he feels, as do I, that the most important thing is that we get on a road to taking care of ourselves. And that's part of it. Part of it is all about knowledge. Knowledge is power. And you can't have knowledge if you're hiding behind a curtain.
There you go.
So
wise words from the Asner men.
Yes.
All right, we're going to take a short break. We'll come back and talk about this a little bit, and then we've got some other topics to talk about. And we'll take your questions live now as well, so stick with us.
The Institute for Behavioral Training provides courses in applied behavior analysis for the treatment of autism. Access IBT e-learning videos on the move and learn at your own pace.
I'm going to talk a little bit
about intensity.
IBT e-learning makes any location your classroom on the go.
So our objectives for today are to really learn what is autism and how is it diagnosed.
Get professional guidance with IBT face-to-face training. IBT face-to-face training courses prepare you to effectively implement ABA-based interventions. Choose between small group and one-to-one instruction. Earn BCBA supervision hours via one-to-one video conferencing.
So I had a chance to review your BIP today. You know what? It looked really good. You did a good job with it.
IBT continuing education courses. Earn credit through webinars, conferences, article reviews, and e-learning videos. You can learn more at ibehavioraltraining.com. IBT, 360 degrees of ABA training.
Welcome back to Autism Live. We are here with awesome Autism Dad Matt Asner, and we've been talking about disclosure and you know what the benefits of it are. We talked about the fact that it's a very personal issue, and I recently watched on Facebook a friend of mine who their older son, and it's not that she was hiding it or anything, that you know she talked about it with people and disclosed it certainly to me when she found out that my son had autism,
Right.
and you know, so there was no hiding it, but it wasn't something that she ran out and said to people, you know, just willy-nilly, because you know, and Alex was talking about this too, about there's a moment, there's a time, and you know, and
of course,
who and when you disclose to, and when it's necessary. But she was never quiet about it. She just wasn't screaming about it, and her child is so much better and doing so well that it was less and less a part of the conversation. And I have no idea what had happened at school, but something was going on at school, and he's got to be, you know, in those middle school years at this point. And she had a beautiful post on her Facebook that she said, hello, everyone who goes to my child's school. I'd like to introduce you to my son. This is my son who was diagnosed with autism at this age and went through this intervention and is incredibly great at this, this, and this, and is working on this, this, and this. And I think that probably some of you didn't know, and I wanted to be clear with you because whatever had happened, you know, she felt the need to go in that direction. And it was very interesting to all of us, and to her, I might add, what came back.
Really?
Because there were so many people who said, I had no idea. And there were so many people who said, I'm so glad you told me because I made assumptions about whatever.
Yeah.
And I look at this case that was in Iowa last week that we had talked about with the young man, that people were making all these assumptions on his behavior, and they're completely ignorant. And this mom just took it upon herself. Like I said, I have no idea what the genesis of it was, but she was saying, here's the deal.
Yeah.
Here's the deal, and this is who you're dealing with, and please know how much work he has done to be a part of your world.
Well, I mean, and I talk about this a lot. You know, autism is invisible. You can't, it's a spectrum disorder, it's invisible, you can't see it. Unfortunately, it does come with the byproduct, you know, it's a communication disorder, so you have situations, and social, you have situations where people don't act the way other people might act in some areas, and for that reason you have people second guessing what's going on with that person's strange, that person's not acting like the way I act,
or that person doesn't like me because they're not making eye contact.
Exactly.
I mean, it can be like all these random things.
And unfortunately, we live in a social society where there are rules.
Yeah.
And
they don't always make sense.
They don't always make sense, but because there are rules. And if people don't follow those rules, it creates stress and problems, and that's a big issue for a lot of people on the spectrum.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I think that when people disclose, or actually fortunately, I think when people disclose this situation, it tends to wake people up. It tends to make people go, oh,
right.
Now I understand.
I think at the very least it puts a flashlight on, and people, you know, on the spot, and people go, okay, I can see it a little bit clearer.
Right.
And maybe they need to keep, you know, each flashlight that gets added, maybe eventually we'll have a spotlight and people will get it.
But I think that's why disclosure is so important.
Yeah.
It's important because we need people to understand that this is a spectrum disorder.
Yes.
That there are people who are extremely high functioning, who, for the most part, can take care of themselves in life, but they're still, find themselves in extremely difficult situations.
Yeah.
And then you have the other side of the spectrum where you've got, people that cannot do things, anything, the way they want to. And it creates frustration on each part of the spectrum. It creates frustration and anxiety.
Absolutely.
And it's very, very difficult for those people.
But I have to ask you this, because I sometimes get frustrated that part of my path right now in life is to make sure that as many people get the word as possible, right? I wake up in the morning and I think, how can we let more people know? That's a part of my day. And when I think we might be making a little bit of headway, it becomes clear to me that we are just barely scratching the surface. And I do get frustrated sometimes about what is it going to take for people to get it, and even family members, and they're well-intentioned.
Right.
But I just this last summer went through a moment with my brother, who has watched this show and who has known, and full disclosure, he knows exactly what's going on, has been around my child from time to time, not a lot, but my brother went to my son when I wasn't in the room and said, Buddy, I'd like to take you fishing. So can I take you fishing tomorrow? Can you and I go fishing? And my son looked at him and kind of panicked in the moment and didn't know how to react, because he doesn't think of him as somebody that he knows really well. And I've told him, somebody asks you to go do something,
don't do it.
You don't go.
Right.
You run away, right? And eventually, and my son kept asking him, and my son wouldn't look at him. My brother was asking him, and my son left the room and said, I need to go talk to my mom. And my brother came to me and said, well, that's it. And I said, what's it? And he said, clearly he doesn't like me, so I'm not going to invest the time. And I went, okay, let's take a breath here. This has nothing to do with you.
Right. Right, exactly.
And I love you, and I understand that you're having a moment right now where you feel rejected, but it has nothing to do with you.
That happens all the time.
Yeah.
Even with my family, it happens. I have situations with my mom, and I love my mom, and she's extremely intelligent. But there are issues. There are certain issues that come up that are difficult for her to handle. And actually, I would say difficult for her to understand. And we walk through life and we expect people to act a certain way. And when they don't act that way, we get frustrated. And we're like, well, why isn't he doing that? There must be something about me. It must be something, because we are an egocentric people, are we not? And it becomes about us. It becomes, well, he's doing that because he doesn't like me. He's doing that because he wants to get back at me, whatever, But that's why awareness is so important. That's why, but I'll tell you something. It never matters until it happens in a personal way. So you can know as much about autism as you want, but until you're in a room with a child that has autism or an adult that has autism, and things aren't going the way you want them to, there's nothing that can prepare you for that moment, because you have to experience it. You have to really go through it in order to deal with it.
Yes.
So your brother, I think he had great intentions. I think
absolutely.
He probably loves your son.
Yes.
And probably wants to communicate with him and to have a relationship with him.
Yes.
But there are issues.
Yeah.
And you just have to work through the issues. And unfortunately, it's difficult to do that.
Yes, it is. But I agree with you that I don't think people really get it until they're up close and personal.
Oh, absolutely.
Which is why I said that if the Disney people really want to understand what needs to happen with the pass, each one of the executives who made the decision should be responsible for 20 kids at a time to go to the park.
Taking them through Disneyland.
Take them through the park for a day.
But okay, let's talk a little bit about that, because I'm comfortable now talking about it.
All right, let's talk about that.
So what have you heard about that? Because I've heard mixed.
We have not been to the park since. We normally are pass holders, and our pass was due, and I called and said, I'm concerned. I have to buy my pass 4 days before this happens, and what if it doesn't work? And I didn't feel like I got a good answer back, and in fact, I became irate on the phone with them, and that's not me with Disney usually, but they were using words, and I said, you need to stop.
Yeah.
You need to stop right now using the words. Do you realize this is not acceptable? The language that you're using, whoever's trained you, this is not. And it was more than one person, I will say this. And I was really offended too, because and you should know this, that while I was on the phone with them, they said, ma'am, you need to understand that this plan was written and approved by Autism Speaks. And
They're still saying that.
They said that to me on the phone, and I said, I beg your pardon,
Yeah.
but that is a lie. Whoever told you that is lying to you. That is misinformation, and you should stop saying that.
Yeah.
And they said, what do you know that I don't know? And I said, believe me, I understand that is not the truth, and so you need to stop saying that. So I was really offended, and we've not been back, and I'm missing my Disney. Now, what I've heard from people is that especially in the first couple of weeks, they did not have it together well.
Right.
That
It's gotten a lot better.
That it's gotten better, but that it is still not conducive, that it doesn't make sense, that it's not conducive to having the best experience, that it feels like a punishment.
Yeah.
And that they feel like...
From everyone you've heard that.
Only the autism parents. Other people that have been at the park and I've said, report back to me and tell me if you're seeing long lines.
Right.
They came back and said, no, it all seemed like it was working fine. But those were people who didn't have kids with them that were on the spectrum.
Right.
But everybody I know that has kids on the spectrum has come back and said, we were not able to access the park in the way that we would have liked to have. Forget how it used to be.
Yeah.
That what we came to accomplish at the park, and I'm sure you go to Disneyland with your kids.
I do, but Disneyland is and the only way I could have gone in the past is the card.
Yeah.
But my son, both of my sons, are not riders.
Oh.
They do not like rides.
So you should go with me. I'll go to the show with them because I can't do the rides.
Oh yeah, I should. And I'll go on the rides.
You can ride on the rides with my husband and my son and go on all the, because I get car sick on a stationary bicycle. So we should go together.
All they want to do is eat.
Yeah.
They want to. We get
They're my
there.
kind of kids.
We get there and it's like, let's eat.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, yeah, let's go eat. and they don't ever want to ride the rides.
Yeah.
And so I've had to kind of bribe them to go on the rides.
Yeah.
But they, the only way we could have been there is through that.
Yeah.
But I have talked to some people who are, some people certainly don't like the new system, but there are other people who do like it and who say that.
Really?
Yeah, who say that if they take the time and really talk to you. Okay. And that's the thing. I think parents have to go there. And they have to, they have to go through that one-on-one meeting that I guess happens, where they take your picture and everything. And you go through the one-on-one meeting and make sure that they communicate with you. Yeah. And if they communicate with you and they get, and they can talk to you about what's going on, then they can tailor, it to the specific needs.
Well, that's
of your child.
encouraging. Then I appreciate hearing that aspect of it. Because we do want to go again. Somebody said, are you boycotting? And I said, no, we're not boycotting. That would be the last thing in the world. We enjoy going to Disneyland, but we have an agenda when we go to Disneyland. And a lot of times when we go in the afternoon.
Yeah.
Like we would go on a Wednesday afternoon and arrive at like 4:30 to stay until 9 o'clock on a school night. And, that was always available to us to do because longer than that is too much for any of us. And
your feet start to hurt.
Well,
get fatigued.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, and it's a certain amount of sensory stuff for all of us. And I see people all the time at the park. When you get there at 4:30, you get a real slight, and when you're sitting there while other people are riding on the ride, you get to watch the humanity that is. And I will watch to see how parents are interacting with kids and who's finding it the happiest place on earth. And usually around 4:30 is when the meltdowns start. Yeah. You want to do science, behavior science, go and check out Disneyland at 4:30 in the afternoon because you see that the mom is tired, the dad is tired, grandma's tired, and the baby's tired, and the 4-year-old's in meltdown mode.
Now, even my brother who's 26 had a meltdown at Disneyland last time I took him. So
I've had a meltdown at Disneyland as an adult and said, look, I'm too hot, I'm too cold, I'm whatever. Yeah. I need to go sit someplace quiet for a couple of minutes, or else. Yeah. So but for us to go in the afternoon, and if we can only ride on 2 rides in that amount of time, I have to say that's not going to be enough of an incentive for me to drive down there and pay for a pass. So I don't know.
I agree with that. I think, but I think anyone out there who who should experience it for themselves.
I agree, and I don't think that you should. I think everybody should have an open mind as well, and go to the park and see what you can accomplish one-on-one. I do think that there are great people who work at Disneyland, and that I think it is their intention to always train people to be the best at customer service that you can find anywhere.
Yeah.
And when you find that at Disneyland, it truly is the happiest place on earth. So. But I still want them to go through the park with 20 children.
I think that's a good idea.
I don't think it would hurt anyone.
Write the plan out.
Okay, and then...
and send it in.
And then
I think that's a great idea.
Honestly, and let's, send... I think it's a very much akin to, I used to love on Oprah when she would have the women go away for the weekend and have the dads who were not hands-on dads. And I know that you're a hands-on dad, and my dad was a hands-on dad, my husband is a hands-on dad, but there are some dads who don't understand. And so Oprah would send the wives away for the weekend, and
the dads would be home.
And videotape what the dads would go through with the kids, and the arrival of the mom when the mom came back, and the dad saying, I had no idea.
I love you so much.
Right. We're going to arrange for you to have more days off now because I had no idea how hard it is.
Right.
So I think it should be like that. Until you walk a mile in somebody else's shoes, you don't always know. And maybe I would volunteer as an autism parent to go and work at something that they have to do and put up with all the people who are, breaking the rules and have to stand there day in, day out and see what that is. I'm willing, if they need me to go and work and feel what that's like, I'm willing to do that and work on the other side.
I think that's a fair trade.
Right?
Yeah.
I think I would have a good time.
We wear the mouse ears and the vest, the plaid vest.
Yeah, no, I've never worked at Disneyland, but I was an elf at Santaland and Macy's in Herald Square way back when. Yes.
Wow.
I could tell you my elf name, but then I'd have to kill you.
Really?
So yes, my son knows, but he's sworn to secrecy.
Well, I don't want you to kill me, so I don't want to hear it.
But I think it's sort of, Macy's Santaland back it was in the 80s, is akin to, Disneyland. It was that big of a production number. So, but you'd never lived in New York. You're from New York.
I just visited New York. I didn't live there.
For those of you who are New Yorkers,
But I did take my son to New York last year.
Yes.
Will.
Yes.
And we spent some time there, and it was incredible. I thought he would be overwhelmed and wouldn't be able to take it, walking through the streets and everything. But he loved it.
Yeah.
I've never seen anything like that. He was so enamored by the traffic and the sounds and the smells, and it was, probably overwhelming for anyone, but for him it was great. And he loved the subway. We went to Coney Island 9 times.
Wow.
Which is like an hour train ride each way. And all he wanted to do was go to Coney Island. We didn't get off at Coney Island. We just stayed on the train and went back.
Wow.
But it was this thing, he just wanted to go there. Because it wasn't even open. The hurricane had hurt it, so it wasn't open. But it was
just to ride the train.
It was great.
Isn't that amazing?
We had a blast.
We've been, just in the airports in New York City, so we haven't been out and about in New York City. It's on my list of things to do with Jem. I fear that he will love it as well and want to live there, because the hustle and bustle and having tall buildings around you, not a comfort to me.
Right.
But even just in the parts of LA where there are tall buildings, Jem responds to that. He quite likes that.
And there were so many things that surprised me about Will on that trip. He wanted to take a tour on one of those buses, on those open double-decker buses. So we went, and we got up there, and it was raining. So what they do in the rain is they still go in the rain, but they put these slickers on you.
Yeah.
And you sit there in the freezing rain, and they drive you around, and they take you on a tour. And Will didn't care. He just wanted to be there. He wanted to be in the rain, and he didn't even want to wear the slicker.
Wow.
He just wanted to ride. It was amazing.
Well, New York in the rain is amazing. But
this is my favorite time of year to go to New York.
Yeah.
There's no time. It's a different world.
Yes.
It's lit up, and there's a special feeling there. It's cold. It's wonderful.
It is an amazing
New York
place.
during this holiday is amazing.
It is amazing. Unfortunately, we are out of time because we have a guest.
Me out.
I'm kicking you out because we have a guest who's going to be joining us via Skype. The filmmakers from a film that's being made called My First Kiss, and it is a feature film that's being made with the leading character, an 18-year-old girl on the spectrum. And it's a bit of a thriller, is my understanding.
Wow.
So very excited to have them on the show, but we're going to say goodbye to Matt, but we're with you next week.
Yep.
And then that's the last Tuesday before the end of the year. So
And then
it's
I'll
the
see you
last
next
Tuesday.
year.
Yes, you'll see me next year, where we'll have lots to talk about in
Yes.
2014. Lots and lots to talk about. So thank you so much for being here and sharing your
pleasure.
wisdom and thoughts. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, our special guest, I want to get the name right, Luigi Campi from My First Kiss. Stick with us.
You say howdy, we say hi. Let's get rowdy, let's get wild. 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 Let's get wild.
Hi, it's Lisa Ackerman. Welcome back to What's Left. We're enjoying some wine. We're going to make some fake bourbon chicken tonight. But we're not using bourbon. It's not gluten-free. So what we're doing, and Kristen, you're doing a great job at pounding and getting out all of your energy on that chicken. So go take it out.
I know. You know, how many of us moms are at a park or we're at a grocery store and somebody walks up to you and, you know, your child's having a meltdown and, you know, having not one of those fun days. This is a great thing to come home to. You would come home and really pound that chicken and you would feel so much better. And that's basically, it kills two birds with one stone.
You're making a great meal for your family.
Yes, and you're feeling great.
You're feeling better about that jerk who said, why can't you get your kid under control?
Absolutely.
Awesome. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take all your pounded, aggressive chicken and start to saute it in the skillet. And I'm just going to add a little bit of my grapeseed oil. So I'm going to go ahead and just put this in. We love the way we're going to just try to brown this up and cook it a little bit. Just a little bit of salt and pepper on top. And we're just going to go ahead and brown this. Great, Kristen. Great job. I think we're almost all brown here, so I'm going to get your help over at the cutting board, if you don't mind.
The cutting station.
The cutting station. We're going to cut this in about a third slices. You go chop it up. Okay. I'm going to start on the sauce.
Okay.
We're going to take the orange juice, water, and add that in. And I'm going to measure out the fake soy sauce, a third cup. Add that in. Take in your ketchup and your brown sugar and go ahead and put that in. So in here is the red pepper flakes and ginger. So we're going to go ahead and add that in. So in the red pepper flakes, if you've got a kid that's really sensitive and doesn't like to bring a lot of heat to the kitchen, you can definitely omit that. That's not a problem. And then my favorite, as much garlic as tolerated. And the last thing that we're going to do, and as we get this heated up on the skillet, is we're going to pull this in, thicken to the sauce, and add in the arrowroot to thicken it. So we're going to go back to the frying pan. Woohoo! And put in our sauce, and we're going to bring it to a boil, and that's when I'm going to add the arrowroot. What arrowroot does for everything, like when we're baking with gluten-free flours, this adds kind of the oomph to hold it together. Arrowroot is also a great sauce thickener. So let's go in and add the chicken. Thank you again for helping get this all together. I made extra sauce because I'm a saucy girl. So we made a really nice meal here tonight. We're talking just the right flavors, right texture. So I'm going to serve you up to what we're going to have for dinner, if that sounds good to you. Yes! So
I always love coming
over. So what we made over here is just really some, what I call my dirty rice, and it's just some of the really nice different spices. I use a little red pepper flakes in that as well, beaumont, parsley, and just salt and pepper. It's really simple. And some of my favorite, which is zucchini sauteed. So I'm going to just go ahead and serve you up, and you can get to be my guinea pig once again.
I will always be a good guinea pig anytime you cook.
Bon appetit, my friend.
Thank you so
much. And thank you for joining us at Autism Live. Kristen, I had fun with you today.
I always have fun. Thank you.
It is. It's great. And we had fun with you, too. And if you have questions or want to see us cook some more different dinners, just email us. You can email us at autismlive@gmail.com or go to Facebook, facebook.com/autismlive. Or Taka Now. Taka's got tons of recipes, over 2,000 recipes ready for you to come and explore and have some fun. And thanks to Holly for this great bourbon-free bourbon chicken. And we'll see you next time on What's Left. Bye, guys.
You say hi, we say hi. Let's get rowdy, let's get wild. Let's get wild.
Welcome back to Autism Live. Joining us via Skype right now from New York City is Luigi Campi, and he is the writer of an amazing new film about to be made called My First Kiss. So Luigi, welcome to Autism Live.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
We want you to tell us about this really important film, My First Kiss. Tell us.
Well, we're very excited about the movie. We're in the pre-production phase right now. And the movie, the full title is quite long. It's My First Kiss and the People Involved. And it's a coming-of-age thriller starring where the main character is an 18-year-old girl living with autism. And it's the story of her bonding with one of the caregivers in the home she lives in, and about what happens when that caregiver goes missing. So it's it's a thriller seen through a very unique perspective, let's say.
And you mentioned, Luigi, that this film is in pre-production, excuse me, and that there is a way that people can participate and help this film to get done and get done in the scope that you'd like to get it done. Tell folks at home how they can participate.
Absolutely. If you want to know more about the movie after you've heard about it, you can go on myfirstkissmovie.com, and you can check out the story. You can look at images of the people involved, and you can get involved yourself. We're at a pre-production phase right now where we're still looking to, let's say, to fill up the budget. But apart from that, we're pretty much ready to go. So if you like what you hear, be sure to go to myfirstkissmovie.com to know a little bit more.
Wonderful. We're going to take a short break, and we're going to come back and talk with Luigi a little bit further in depth about this film and let you know why you absolutely want to, first of all, be a part of this movie and making sure that it happens, and second of all, why you're going to want to see this movie when it's available and out in theaters. So stick with us.
Hi, I'm Bryce Myler, and I'm the Contracts Director for the Center for Autism and Related Disorders. I've been here for about 5 years. CARD has several employees with many years of insurance experience, dealing with insurance, dealing with pre-authorizations, dealing with discovering whether there's coverage or not. So we have more experience than any ABA provider that I've ever come across. So for a prospective client, somebody that may be interested in, ABA therapy and what CARD has to offer, we have a special 800 number, and you call that number. They will talk to you about what we have to offer, how ABA works. He'll ask you for the front and back of your ID card, and then we check to see if you do or do not have coverage. If you have coverage for ABA therapy, we try to do whatever we can to set it up where we can bill for you and you don't have to fight with the insurance company every month to get your claims paid. For California residents, we recently did a series of insurance trainings all over the state, and you can click on the link below to watch pretty much the full presentation. It has a lot of information, how you can get your insurance company to comply with what they're supposed to do, understanding the networks, and many other valuable pieces of information.
Welcome back to Autism Live. Joining us via Skype, we have Luigi Campi. He is the writer-director of an upcoming independent feature film called My First Kiss. And what's the subtitle for it? And the people involved?
Yes, it's My First Kiss and the People Involved.
And the people involved.
But if people don't remember it, we can cut it down. My First Kiss. It's catchier.
It is. I like that. And we were talking with him before the break about your main character, who is a young woman on the autism spectrum.
Yes.
And I'm wondering, Luigi, if you could tell us a little bit about why you were inspired as a writer to have your leading lady be on the spectrum.
Yes, it's interesting because many people that are collaborating on this production have very personal, direct relationships with autism. One of our producers has 3 siblings on the spectrum.
Wow.
Another one of our producers, his sister has been involved for many years with people who live with autism. But personally, I had no contact whatsoever with autism, with the autism community, and what sparked an interest for me was watching a YouTube video, funny enough, where a young woman on the spectrum explains how she relates to the world. So it was seeing her unique view on the world that kind of sparked an interest in me. I'm generally very interested in unique points of view, and one of the powers of cinema as a medium, of film as a medium, is to be able to put the audience in someone else's shoes, and to be able to have people look at the world through a different pair of eyes. So initially it was more of a cinematic interest for me, to be able to see a whole story through a very unique point of view.
And I have to say, from looking at your website, which really is remarkable, and we should say again, My First Kiss, what's the website again? My First Kiss?
It's myfirstkissmovie.com.
And the images that are on that website are very striking. They're very provocative in terms of showing what something looks like from the perspective of somebody who's on the autism spectrum. So it's thrilling to hear you say that it was the cinematic aspect of it that really keyed you in first, because I see that on your website. It speaks very loudly to that. So you're conveying that really wonderfully. And I can't wait now to see as a director how you make that come to life within this film. I think that it's something that hasn't been done really well, that visual aspect of what it's like to be a person on the spectrum, and to see a whole feature film on it is very exciting to me as an autism parent.
Thank you very much. Yes, we're very excited. I was actually reading yesterday something that I didn't know, and it's about the famous painting "The Scream" by Munch. By Munch, and it was explaining how the painting, and I didn't know this, is actually about a panic attack that Munch had on that bridge in Oslo, and it's very exciting to see someone who's doing a similar thing. Of course, when we make the movie, we won't be able to capture everything that everyone living with autism ever felt at any given time. So it's not a comprehensive documentary in that sense. But we're going more for the very intimate, subjective, personal experience of this one 18-year-old girl, Sam, and of how she confronts a situation where the confusion and the fear that arises are bigger than her, are overwhelming, and how she ultimately manages to push through and survive it.
And I'm very interested, I understand that you've already cast the role of Sam, the young woman, and I'm sure that was not the easiest thing in the world, because you're going to be working with somebody extensively on being able to convey all those things. And so how did you find this young actress?
Absolutely. We went through a very interesting and rewarding casting process with our casting director, Kate Murray, here in New York. We met with many actors, and we're very excited because actually we now have a complete cast. The movie is a compressed movie. It all happens in this home where 6 people with autism live with 2 caregivers, and we have a complete cast, and we're very excited because all of the actors are very committed, very truthful, passionate, and very compassionate. So these are all things that are very important to make this world believable. All the people that we've been speaking to that have personal, direct ties to autism or to the autism community are a great way for us to keep in mind that yes, we're making a thriller. Yes, it's something subjective, but we really want to be faithful to what it means to live with autism, in its both in its most in its scariest aspects of dealing with the world, but also in its more, let's say, unique aspects of seeing the world through a different lens.
Well, I love that. I can't wait. When do you actually start filming?
Well, we are going to start filming in early May when the leaves are on the trees, and I'm very happy that we're not filming right now because New York is freezing right now and it's snowing. So
I know that you won't appreciate this, but it's really cold in LA too for LA. I know.
For LA, okay.
Everybody is freezing here, and I know the big joke all weekend long has been that when it's 50 degrees in New York, everybody goes on a picnic. When it's 50 degrees in Los Angeles, we break out the parkas. It's true. It's absolutely true. We're all freezing here, but we aren't having snow, and I know that that's a much different thing, having grown up in upstate New York. But in any case, so you'll start filming in May. When do you anticipate people being able to see this film?
So we'll start filming in May, and the post-production process takes a while. So we're hoping that by October or November, we'll be able to start sending the movie to festivals so that people can start watching it. But before that, we'll let's say we would really like to keep a conversation open. We're preparing some little teasers right now to get people curious and give a glimpse of what we're going for. And later on, during production, we'll make sure to keep people in the loop with some behind-the-scenes video to see how we're working and how the project is evolving. And on the website, by the way, there's a very nice feature called Go Watch It that you can click. You can just insert your email address, and it's a software that will update you automatically whenever some new material, some new footage, some new updates come up about the movie.
Great. So people need to go to myfirstkissmovie.com.
Exactly.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Luigi. We look forward to having you back on the show to give us an update about how things are going.
I'd be happy to. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. We're going to take a quick break and come back and finish out the show. Stick with us. Oh, we're not going to take a quick break. We're out of time. So, all great. I forgot to tell you the toy of the hour. How remiss of me. I got so busy. So here's the toy of the hour. This is what we're giving away in this hour from Leapfrog. It is the Leapfrog Phonics. Great toy. So if you want to register for that, I believe that a word came up on the screen. Hopefully you wrote it down. It is for this toy right in to us here at autismlive@gmail.com. We have to receive that by 7 a.m. Pacific time tomorrow. And then if you win, you'll get an email to that effect. And we'll have more toys that we're giving away tomorrow. Tomorrow is Wednesday. Dr. Doreen Grampachet will be back with us tomorrow to do the second half of the anxiety show. This is when we really get into the nitty-gritty of what can we do when we're having anxiety and what can we do when our kids are having anxiety to overcome that. Strategies to be able to have a happier, more productive life, which is so important. And then in the second hour tomorrow for Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy, my co-host Nancy Alspaugh Jackson will be back, and Susan Campbell Cross will be with us. She's a lifestyle editor for Fit Magazine and for Shape Magazine, I believe, as well. And she's got some great tips for us during the holidays to take care of ourselves and to take care of our families, to stay healthy and happy and be as fit as possible. Reduce that stress. So Susan Campbell Cross will be with us as well tomorrow. And then as we're finishing out the week, every single hour until our last last hour on December 20th that we are live. Every single hour that we are live, we're going to be giving away more gifts. Some of them are toys, some of them are other things. We've got some great gift certificates that we're giving away tomorrow for some training, for autism training. Really remarkable stuff. So make sure that you're not only tuning in, but that you're telling others. Share it on Facebook. You can go on our Facebook page and you see where it says the Holiday Giveaway Extravaganza. Share it. You never know who is out there and who could really use another toy under the Christmas tree. We have got so many toys to give away and great gifts to give away. It can only help. So make sure that you share it. It's good karma to share, right? And then I do want to remind all of you that December 20th will be the last show of the year, and then we will be back in the second week in January. So all of that going on, but I hope that you will take a moment to at least let one other person know about the Holiday Giveaway Extravaganza. I guarantee you'll feel better once that you've done that. Want to thank all of our guests here on the show today. Alex Plank, make sure that you visit wrongplanet.net and check that out. Matt Asner, who was here from Autism Speaks, you can go to their website and get tons of information. And of course, Luigi Campi, go see www.myfirstkissedmovie.com. So we are out of time, but I want to thank all of you for being with us today, and make sure that you continue to write in and let us know what questions that you would like to have answered. Tomorrow we'll be back at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. That's 1 p.m. Eastern Time for another 2 hours live, the second half of the Anxiety Show. Until then, please give your kiddos a hug from me. Bye-bye for now.